meeting to order. All please rise and say the pledge.
Flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Nixon.
Here.
Mr. Moore.
Here.
Ms. Gross.
Here.
Mr. DePaul.
Here.
Mr. Nodeline.
Here.
Mr. Nico. And Mr. James.
And you have a quorum. I don't know if everybody that's in attendance tonight knew what a special meeting it is. And I'm so glad so many people decided to attend. Usually we have the same old little crew that shows up. And being it's such a special night, I'm glad that you could be here. We have some representatives from Representative Cartwright's office. April, would you like to have something to say?
Sure. So, I'm April Niver. I'm here on behalf of Congressman Cartwright, who's representative of the Pennsylvania 17th Congressional District. He has created this congressional record to recognize you for your 50 years of service, and I'm going to read it. This will be entered on the floor on December 15th, tomorrow, whenever they're back in session. So, in recognition of Mayor Gerald W. Gross of West Easton, Pennsylvania, Mr. Speaker, I rise to honor the Mayor of the Borough of West Easton, Pennsylvania, the Honorable Gerald W. Gross, for his 50 years of service as an elected official. His accomplishments were recognized by the West Easton Borough Council on the evening of Monday, December 14th. Mayor Gross first held an official role in West Easton as a member of the Borough Council. It is a position he held for 20 years. In 1986, he was sworn in as the mayor of West Easton. He has been the mayor for 30 years. Very impressive. Known to be a patient and giving man, Mayor Gross would take calls from home to hear complaints and questions from borough residents. He owns a landscaping business and often donates free materials and services to the borough to maintain parks and recreational areas. As a dedicated leader, Mayor Gross closely oversaw several large community projects, such as the installation of public sewer lines and the planning and construction of the West Easton Municipal Building. He also led planning and preparations for the borough's centennial celebration in 1998, which was ended with the fireworks display. Mayor Gross has been ardent in his efforts to boost economic development in the borough. A notable accomplishment was his role in the establishment of a new Northampton County leased DUI treatment center in 2012, which generates $50,000 in impact fees for the borough's general fund. Additionally, he has worked to make the community and its parks safe and clean in order to promote West Easton as a great place for families. Mayor Gross is also known to be someone who can bring people together. He believes much can be done when people are willing to compromise, and he stresses the importance of listening to each other and staying focused on the greater good of the community. His good works have served as a role model for his daughter, Kelly Gross, who was first elected to West Easton Borough Council in 1993 and currently serves as council president. It is an honor for me to recognize Mayor Gerald Gross for his generous nature and his lifetime of service. With a will to do for others, he has improved his community and inspired the next generation of leaders. So, thank you for your time tonight.
2 cents to add now. Mayor Jerry Gross has been the heart and soul of West Easton for 50 years. He was born and raised in our borough, and nobody loves his town more than he does. He got involved in local government. I got involved in local government because of him. He's always been my advisor and my role model. He's always been our local historian. During his 50 years on council, as a member and as mayor, he has seen it all. The good, the bad, and lately the ugly. Because of his experiences as a council member for 20 years, 19 of those as council president, Mayor Gross has been an invaluable asset to all of us. At times, he's almost like an 8th council member. Jerry Gross never aspired to any other higher office outside of the borough. His only goal during his 50 years has been to serve the people of West Easton. I can remember as a little girl listening to my father handle questions and complaints or problems brought to him by residents. He always responded calmly, politely, and he always had time to help. And even when he didn't have time, he made time. And he's the same way now. Much of what he's done over the years has been visible to the public, but he also does things quietly behind the scenes that few people even know about. For example, he voluntarily plants trees on the public property in memory of deceased borough officials. In 1998, as April mentioned, the borough proudly observed the centennial. And Mayor Gross led the planning, preparation, and festivities. It was a landmark year for the history of our community. The list of accomplishments of public servant Gerald W. Gross is very, very long. Two notable achievements in his involvement in the planning and construction of this building we sit in here today. And another big one was the installation of the public sewer system that we all use several times a day. As mayor, he's done everything in his power to encourage economic development in the borough. His goal has always been to increase the tax base so that the local government can provide more services to the public without putting a burden on the homeowners. When the large economic development project fell through a few years ago, he led the way to get another developer to make productive use of vacant property. Despite some bumps in the road, a new county leased DUI treatment center opened in West Easton in August of 2012. In addition to more property tax revenues, the project is generating up to $70,000 a year in impact fees since we increased the beds for our borough's general fund. Mayor Gross spoke at the grand opening of the treatment center, which was attended by many Northampton County officials, including several judges. After welcoming everyone, the mayor acknowledged what can be accomplished when people engage in the art of listening to each other and then compromising when necessary. He also has taken public safety responsibility very seriously. In cooperation with the Wilson Police, the Easton Police, and the Pennsylvania State Police, Mayor Gross has worked diligently to keep West Easton neighborhoods and its residents and visitors safe. Jerry Gross is not only known as mayor, He's also known as Coach. For his entire adult life, he has promoted youth sports. And actually, he started the first girls basketball program in the Wilson, West Easton area. I was in 8th grade. Of course, I participated. He was an integral part of the West Easton Athletic Association and coached its first midget football, basketball, and baseball teams. He has a special passion for basketball. And some of his proudest moments occurred during the 11 seasons he coached a Notre Dame High School girls basketball team. During those 11 seasons, his teams qualified 7 times for the playoffs of the PIAA. He retired in 2002 from his position as warehouse operations manager for Georgia Pacific after a 46-year career with the same company. Mayor Gross has always been fair, reliable, and dedicated leader. For a long time as a council member, a council president, and the mayor of West Easton. Recently, he has spoken about stepping down before the end of his term because of the naysayers in our midst who seem intent on causing problems. This turn for the worse in our community has weighed heavily on the mayor. I, for one, hope he doesn't resign. In fact, I hope he runs for and is elected for another term. Our borough needs him now more than ever. We need his experience, his wisdom, and his common sense. And we need his drive to get things done. For Mayor Gross, getting things done has always taken precedence over petty politics and personal vendettas that seem to motivate others. So congratulations, Dad.
Thank you.
You're a credit to your hometown. I, along with everybody in this room, and the others in West Easton, are extremely proud of you. And you have always been a gentleman, and true gentlemen are in short supply these days. And with that, we also have some other congratulatory items that happen to show up. We have one from Governor. I won't bore you with all the details, I'm pretty much. Obama sent you some too.
Oh, well.
Our Senator Pat Toomey. Got a congratulatory citation from Lisa Goscola. And a citation from Mr. Bob Freeman.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I want to say, thank you. I just want to, I appreciate this very much. I've never been one to dwell on this type of thing. I always like to see others get congratulated and for their good deeds and stuff like that. Image of this town has always been my top priority. Over the years, we did a lot of the first things in the communities that surround us, and we got a reputation as doers and finishers. And it's very important that all towns, whether they're big or small, continue to promote themselves, do as much as they can for the citizens of the town. They're the most important asset you have. And you have to make sure that their situations are covered when they have a complaint. I've had an open door policy in my own house where over the years, people come and knock on the door and I'll spend the time with them and listen. I have a garage on the street and they used to kid me that I was breaking the sunshine law because there was too many people there talking to me about their situations. But it had nothing to do with anything other than listening and trying to get a feel what's on people's minds. I've been very proud of some of the things that the President mentioned there, especially some of the accomplishments. I was part of in the building here in the center and the sewer system. It was a collective thing. I mean, I was a big part of it, and I pushed for it, but it was always the good counsel that was there to understand and pursue it and develop it. I was more of a person that would light the fire and make sure the fire was still going until they put it out and had the project done. And that's been my philosophy in life. It was that way coaching sports. One of my proudest things, which was mentioned there, I coached Notre Dame High School. In 11 years, we won 4 district, 11 championships, 4 league titles, and we won 259 games and 59 losses. And so over 80% winning percentage. And that made me very proud. And the thing that makes me even more prouder is the fact that these kids that I coached, I still get from the 90s, I still get the Christmas cards and phone calls and all that kind of stuff. But I coach them just like I try to coach the people in this room. And I'll continue to do that as long as I can. I'm still on the ledge of finishing. It depends a lot. My health is good, but my wife just fell and broke her hip, and she's in the hospital right now. And I know that's going to be a resurrection project for a while, and we'll see what happens with that. So I want to thank you all for being here, because it makes me feel good that at least some people come to see what's happening in the town, good, bad, or indifferent. I'll accept all kinds of situations, and I always will until I'm done here. And I will tell the ones that I feel that are out of order in a nice way, that they understand that it isn't the right way to be, but I also compliment them when they do something good. Thank you very much.
I'm Monica Wall, from T&M Associates, and on behalf of T&M, we have this certificate of recognition for your 50 years of service with West Easton Borough.
Well, thank you very
And
much.
I have to say, it's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
when I think about it, it went fast. It really did. I mean, you wonder where the time goes. And if you're enjoying it, whatever you do in life, if you're enjoying it, it's a pleasure to do.
Yeah.
And any situation I've been in, my job with the Georgia Pacific, my coaching, and this year, and my landscape business, it's been a real pleasure for me in every level of it.
You seem to have a great attitude.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Anybody else have any comments or nice things to say to the mayor? No? All right. Moving on. Approval of checks 14533 through 14589 of the general fund. The motion.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Notley, second by Mr. Moore. Any discussion?
Checks 542 and 543, 14542, is that advertisement for the proposed budget?
The budget and garbage contract.
I think the ad was a little lengthy, it looked more like a press release. But
We gotta get it out there.
That's all right.
motion.
Motion by Mr. Nottley,
Second.
second by Mr. Moore. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of receipts and deposits as presented.
Make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Nottley,
Second.
second by Mr. Moore. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Approval of minutes, November 9th, 2015.
I make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Nolly, second by Mr. Moore. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Approval, September and October treasury reports.
Make the motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Nolly, a motion by Mr. Nolly, second by Mr. Moore to accept the treasury reports. All in favor?
Can I ask a question? Is it the bank's fault that we're not getting the November treasury report? Are they?
We got the bank statements late, we just sent them to her today. So you'll have it for next meeting. And right now, we have a substitute mailman. The regular mailman took a route closer to his house. So we have whoever they stick on this route. So it comes on, sometimes it comes after the close.
Tell me about it. My mail just got delivered at 4:07.
No, then you understand, I hope. All right, our sewer authority representative is working tonight. Public comment. Any public comment?
I do. Mr. Mayor, congratulations on the 50 years. I didn't say it before, but I sincerely mean that. 50 years of doing any kind of politics is an amazing feat. I just had basically it's a question. The DUI Center, it was my understanding in listening to past meetings that 50,000, I thought 50,000 was the cap, and I heard 70,000 at the last meeting we were getting. Is there a cap on it? I thought there was a cap.
That's the way it's set up right now.
No, what you don't understand is the way I set it up. We didn't set it up from January to December. I set it up in a fiscal year, July to July.
Okay.
So we can get $70,000 in 1 year.
And is that the cap?
The cap was 50, but in July it can keep going to the end of the year.
Oh, so
the
it
next July.
can change
So
every...
it just keeps rolling throughout the year. It doesn't ever just, the way it was initially set up, it was set up to go from January to December. And once you hit July and you hit 50, you get nothing. I set it up fiscally, so it went from July to July, so you always have a check coming in.
Okay.
It made more sense to me.
Some of my confusion came when the attorney was here, Thompson, and he had said that...
The cap is there, but when
Yeah.
you reach your cap and it's July and it's August, you start over again.
Okay, thank
So
you.
you just keep rolling.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah.
Bob Lewis, 714 East Street. I cited a webinar that cost $40 and spoke with Terry Dickow, PSAB. And she said to give you the heads up that an invoice will be coming.
You already got it.
Oh, great. And then you guys can vote on it to accept it.
I think that the proper way to do that is to, when you're sworn in, after the first of the year, that council would approve it.
Yeah, there's an issue, and I was going to bring this up in my report about and this is obviously up to council, but I have concern about whether that's in conjunction with the borough code. There's a couple sections where, in order, and council can do what they want and vote on it, but I would just raise concern that before council members are, although they are elected, they're not quite sworn in or haven't affirmed the oath of office until January. And then this was an expense that you're bringing before the borough for approval before you have been sworn in and taken the oath of office for council. So, you know, if the council wants to vote on it, but I have concern that it's not in conjunction with the borough code.
Well, check it out. I talked with Terry, and she's comfortable doing it this way.
I don't see it as a problem. After the first of the year, they can approve it right away.
Sure.
Because you'll be sworn in then.
Correct.
Right now, you're a citizen of West Easton, and it makes it a little less, it makes it a little
Well,
air.
as she mentioned, being elected made me a member of this. So the fee came down from a non-member. Anybody can go and do it if they pay. Since I am a member now, she asked me to come to you.
Yeah, well, still, you're not a council member.
Correct.
And you have to be sworn in. And then once you're sworn in, any webinars that you want to go on, you can.
Sure.
Right.
After January the 15th, they have that's one municipal boot camp for new elected officers. So at that point,
Marty and
you're not in thing. And I don't even know how you even got on that.
I spoke with PSAB. They walked me through it and allowed me to do it.
Did you call them or did they call you?
I called them.
Let's see it.
Called them.
Oh, I'm not a Google pay on this.
You got $20? I got 20.
Well, I think it's
Well, he's a member elect, and I guess.
Well, it'll get sorted out.
It's legal. I don't think it's
Well, I know legally, yeah, he's not till January, what I'm saying. I got $20.
I mean, I don't see it as a payment problem. It's just the right way to do it. We had it happen once before. We were advised by our solicitor at that time that anybody that's elected, they can't participate in any of the perks, if you want to call it that, at that time. And that goes back a number of years that was stated. So, but you don't have a problem.
All right, thanks.
Public comment? Engineer's report.
No.
Mayor, do anything?
I have a question for the engineering company. And your name is what, ma'am?
Monica Wall.
Monica. The grant for the casino was being helped written by one of your associates, Mr. Young.
Okay.
And a letter was sent to the borough saying that they regret that we did not get the grant. Are
Okay.
you familiar with anything that happened between the county and your office?
I am not. But I can get back to you if you have a question.
Well, the problem is, Mr. Young was ineligible to participate in anything that had to do with the county as far as doing any work for anyone, because he was employed by the county. He signed an oath not to do anything that involved the county for 1 year after he left the county. And he helped write the borough grant with the figures within that year. And that's why we were rejected.
The good thing is, it's all done, and you can resubmit it
But the problem is,
next year.
will we charge for it? I have a problem with being charged for that because he was ineligible. He signed a contract with the county, he should have known.
How did you find this out?
I was down at the county. I wanted to know why we didn't get the grant.
He notified me of that situation. I got it here on my cell phone. And, he didn't say he wasn't eligible, but he just said that, there was some complications.
Well, the complication was he worked, his work involved the county, and he wasn't supposed to do it for 1 year. And I would appreciate that information that comes into the borough would be passed around to the council members, so we know that we didn't get the grant.
Well, he contacted us even the night before. You and I met with him that day.
All right.
And he contacted us, the information he got was not complete also.
Well, I got a letter emailed to me that it was addressed to West Easton Borough. I never got any information. Did anybody else? No.
No. The only thing I got is
Pardon?
We didn't get a letter.
Here, I have a letter right here. Pass it down.
We didn't get a letter.
the only thing, only communications was the email and a telephone call. That's it.
Like I said, we have a substitute. Sometimes we get mail, sometimes we don't.
And I don't think we would get a letter like that if he's failed on the grant situation based on his failure to have regards for what they told him he couldn't do.
Well, the county emailed me and told me that's what happened. They sent me an email, and it gave me the resolution that was passed by the county years ago. And in there it states that once you're employed by the county, you have 1 year hiatus.
All right, well,
Can I put this on file? Or
Yeah.
do you want a copy of it?
No, I don't.
we'll put, maybe we can talk to them and just see,
Yeah.
what the cost was. I would relay that back.
Yep. Um,
And mayor's report.
It seems that some of the councilmen are aware that there is a boot camp for training. And this is not a negative statement. You're all neophytes starting out in council work. And it's very important that you get the depth so you can go off running and do your job, okay? I'm glad you know about it, and it's great. Kelly Gross is the only certified council person in a lot of the area. She was certified on what year? And there's a lot of courses that she's taken, and she was honored by TSAD for that. And she was also honored because of that as Councilwoman of the Year in the state of Pennsylvania. So with that, she has a good background, and sometimes when we have the infighting in council at the president or anybody else, she was able to be equipped to be able to protect the interests of this borough, because knowing what the laws are and how to go about it. So I think the boot camp situation, from my standpoint, is a good thing to go forward with, so that there's a lot of laws today. It's changed from the day that I came to council, back in 60, whatever it was, and it's very difficult with the audits and all the new laws that have come up. And believe me, if you make a mistake and the community don't like it, there's an opportunity for surcharging of individuals as a council person. So that's why you got to get yourself up to date, knowing what you're talking about when you come to the meeting. You know, it's like a marriage ceremony. You were single when you walked in, and now you're a representative of the town. And you're responsible not only for yourself, but you're responsible for the 1,250 people that live here. And you want to make it right. And I just can't say enough about that. I think that's so important for you guys, and to participate in any PSAB functions that you can, and go to those functions. It's supported by the borough, and it's a good thing. It's paid for and everything by the borough. One of the things I have to say, it must be Gerald Gross night, but I have to say it anyway. I just married my 12th couple a week and a half ago, and the girl was Russian, naturalized, and the first time in my life that I had to pronounce a Russian name, and I practiced, and I even went to some of the Ukrainian people in West Easton to find out exactly how it was pronounced. And before I married him, I said to him, I'm going to make a mistake with your name. We'll guide you. And he was from Russia, but he's been here for a lot of years. And it was a girl that he knew when he was growing up, and they got together and they come over and they got married. So it's a duty that Americans perform, and I get a lot of pride out of it, and I think all but one couple are still together. So I have a pretty good record yet. So, and one other thing I've been thinking about, and I think the new council coming in should give it some thought. During the storms we had 2 years ago in October, when we lost our electricity for 12 days, 14 days. I think we should get a in-house generator here, because we were shut down for all that time. The borough was shut down. And I brought this up, I would say maybe beginning of this year. And I was proposing, Dan, listen to this one because I think you're the grant guy, I propose that we try to work a double one for the firehouse, we don't have one, and the Borough of West Easton building. Because once you get into a situation like that, and you can't give the public service and answer questions, I think that it would be a good thing to work on, and that's something that it's a future thing.
The research was already done.
All the research is
When
done?
you talked about it,
Okay.
for here and for the community center up on 6th Street, where people could actually go inside and charge their phones and whatever.
So that's all I have tonight. But I would mark that down on your things to do list. I think it would be a good thing. If you need any help from me, I'll be glad to help.
That's mine.
Yeah, I just have a copy of the contract for the advanced disposal services for the garbage contract to start January 1st, 2016, which has already been signed by the contractor and their representatives, which are, I don't know if they're present. No. And they submitted a performance bond as well, which I reviewed, and it appears to be acceptable, as well as the certificate of insurance naming the Borough of West Easton as additionally insured, which is appropriate, and their limits are appropriate. The policy is effective. The contract looks so thick because we attached the bid submission as well as the bid conditions as exhibits. So I would just be seeking a motion from council to authorize execution of the garbage contract for a 5-year term commencing January 1st, 2016 with Advanced Disposal Services, Lehigh Valley, Inc.
Have a motion to execute the contract?
I'll make a motion to execute contract. Second.
Motion by Mr. Nixon, second by Mr. McCall. Execute the waste disposal contract. All in favor?
That's all I have. Thank you.
I'd like to ask a question, Solicitor. I talked at length with the attorney for Atia, Nikki Thompson, and the impression I got from him after that meeting some time ago, that it was capped, and I'm not sure if it matters when 1 year ends and 1 year starts, but he kind of made it clear that 50,000 was all, no matter how many beds we put in, it had to do with the space involved. So would you check on that?
The way it's set up, and Mickey was in this conversation with us way back when this started, with more beds, we get there faster. Because instead of getting like $1,500 a month, we might get now $2,700 a month. And it's set up in a fiscal year, which is July to July. So if you reach your max, like August or July, your year is starting over in July. So if you reach 60,000 in July, you're starting over. So 50,000 maybe at the end of June. July starts, you start over again, so you're still in the same year.
Yeah, but then the following year, you're only half a year.
No, then you start over again in that July.
Well, if you want a motion for her to check on that, because I am pretty sure that he said the county would not pay more than 50,000.
In a fiscal year, which is July to July.
That's the question now.
That's the way it's set up.
But it,
Mickey and I discussed it,
It
figure
is
out the
paying it
best
out.
way. The county doesn't pay it. They pay nothing to us. All they pay is rent to Atia. Atia pays us the impact fee. I discussed it with Mickey and decided that a fiscal year where if you max out in July, because that's when it was happening, and you have till December, till your New Year starts in January, you get no checks. If you go fiscal year July to July, you max out in July, your New Year starts in
I
August.
understand that, but it wouldn't hurt to ask, just to clear up.
that's fine. The thing is,
You even asked a question, that I remember.
well, yeah, I did. And Vicki, I know Vicki and Kelly negotiated that, and they've been paying it that way.
So, but then, 4 or 5 months ago, you asked a question, and his answer to you was, we're not increasing the space.
Right.
You're not
Yeah,
getting
that was about the
50,000.
space, I was asking about the money, but it has nothing, this here has been set up long before the increase down there.
That's the way it's been since we started receiving
Yeah.
checks.
Well, to get a clear answer would be,
Yeah.
I think would be refreshing to know that.
I'll have it put in writing, and then you can have it, take it home with
Can I ask a question? Getting,
it. No,
no? It's still 50,000 a year.
a fiscal year.
But you have more cash flow during the,
There's a difference.
I would suspect there's trends in when you're seeing
yeah,
high volume activity.
yeah.
I think that possibly is affecting how the money is coming in, and I don't know how much, but there is definitely trends
It's
in
been
criminal
working.
activity and when case volume or activity is higher, and
If
that might
you count an
affect it.
annual year, and you add it all together, you're gonna have more if we get it collected fiscal year, because that's month after month after month. If you just collect it from January to December and you reach your cap at July, you receive no checks after that. If you collect it from July to July and you're maxing out at July, when August starts, you start all over again at 0. But in your annual year, that still adds into your budget of that year. So maybe you got 50, but then by the time you get to December, you got 20 more in that fiscal year, which goes into the annual budget, which may be 70,000.
But the next budget would be short.
The next
No, it
budget would be-
wouldn't.
No,
Oh my God, this keeps rolling.
Why don't you just ask him, because he said it didn't matter, that the amount of people didn't matter, it was the space, 50,000 was it.
yeah.
So if we find out the answer, then we won't have to go around
Fine,
and around.
whatever, it's been going on like seat, same seat. That's fine with me, I don't understand, whatever. I'll get it for you in writing, I said that. Okay, did any committee report, committees meet?
Yeah, we gonna need a new furnace. All right, furnace we got in there is about 19, 20 years old. We
It's a
have,
little chilly in here tonight, you can see.
and, the furnace is shot, we got it working for a little while, but it's gonna conk out.
Is there a written report on that from the heating and air conditioning people?
Yeah, I think it was True Comfort.
What, do I have it?
No.
No,
I think
you're
so.
just getting it tonight. Cause we got a vote on it, we're gonna spend the money and buy it.
I'd like to see the report first.
What he did say is that we got our money's worth out of this thing. Yeah, I understand you want to see a report. You want to wait until the snow flies and we're 2 below zero and the thing goes down and it can't be fixed again. And the pricing on it is pretty darn good. And True Comfort is a very good company.
Is that a gas furnace? I would think.
Yes.
Yeah.
3,400.
That's the only thing.
3,400
He's
for
supposed to put a
generic.
quote together and then you can
3,400
have it.
for generic and 3,800 for carrier.
Well, I'll just make one statement. I'd like to see a report, and we're always voting on things that are not on the agenda. And that's
Well,
that's not the way to
This
do
just
it.
happened. This just happened this week.
Didn't happen 3 months ago, didn't happen 4 months ago. It's like when you hold, that, grant, nobody knew about it till the last week.
That wasn't a
due.
grant, Mr.
Yeah,
Malline.
come on.
It was an
No,
application.
you guys can handle that come January 1.
If the man was in here during the week, then where's his
Yeah.
paperwork? Let me ring the bell first. Ding! All right, go ahead.
Yeah,
I mean,
worry
he-
about it
You can change
January
that
1.
too. You can change that too.
What's that?
No?
Don't worry about it.
I said,
The heating
you
guy
can
came in
change
and
that.
wrote up a report, nobody sees the report.
Now, you'll get a report, I'm sure, when we get it. This just happened this week.
This just
He's putting it all together.
Just put it in
And-
writing.
It's a matter of information now,
Yeah.
and the price that he quoted off the cuff is pretty damn good.
What'd you say it was, 34?
34 for like generic
and 38 for quality.
That is a good price.
For
It's an excellent
carrier.
price,
That is.
because I just got a quote for my building down on 4400.
Yeah.
So, when I heard that, I think I better get another quote.
All right, unfinished business.
Unfinished business, are we going to discuss the budget tonight? It was advertised,
That's unfinished business.
right?
Good call. Would you like to start?
Well, we discussed the 70,000 versus the 50,000, so we can find out what that is. I just want to know why we're transferring 5,000 from the highway fund into the general fund. I think the highway fund should be a serious line item.
You can make any change you'd like to it. This is what the committee came to consensus with. Because we added in the next little fuels that we're gonna get, and,
The highway fund is not in this budget.
all fuels is our work tonight.
But I think we agreed that that's around 134,000 we can estimate.
It's
Yeah, I think so, 134,000 sounds right.
And the reserve fund,
50-some.
we can estimate it as 35,000. Would that be right?
No, I
That's
think
not in
it's
the
higher
budget.
than that.
That was, even at that was budgeted last year. And because of the infrastructure problem we have in Adamson Street now, that was held up. That's why you have it. We got a cracked sewer line down there,
Yeah.
so.
Did you ever find out about that sidewalk? I'm getting off track here, but did you ever find out about that sidewalk that the plumber dug up to get to the pipes and put cones out instead of repairing it?
That's the firehouse's responsibility.
Okay.
That was, I found out about that. I think I reported that. That was the guy that installed it. They had people over there today doing something. I don't know what that was.
I think you spent it today. 'Cause
Did
I
they?
seen it last week.
Yeah, that was in their contract. He was supposed to finish that.
Oh, good.
That wasn't our responsibility.
And the only other thing is, as far as I'm concerned, is how much money are we carrying over from last year, from this year to next year? We still have a CD in the sewer account.
Yes. You have 2 CDs.
And with that, number one, when the new council convenes, you have a right to scrutinize the budget. Then, and change whatever you want to change. I think the important items that you have to look at is the infrastructure problem. You're going to have to get quotes on that. We don't have any quotes on that yet. And the rehabilitation of that street. And in conjunction with the city of Easton, you want to make sure that they finish the other end of that street, that the portion that's in Easton, which I have an agreement with, a verbal agreement with Panto. I talked with him about it, and he gave it to his underlings to take care of it when the time comes. So keep that in your pocket. I should be here to remind you, but
I did find out from Tim that instead of digging up the storm sewers, you'll be able to reline them like we did the sewer main down Keystone, down all the way to, and you won't be disturbing the entire street and shutting it down, except for that period of time when you unroll it and blow the steam through it, blow it out and harden it.
Well, it's
So,
up to council, but the one item is the 5,000. You can pass the budget as amended, or you can leave the 5,000 in. I would rather see it stay in the highway fund.
I would think it should be in the highway fund myself. He's not here tonight, the author, and he's working, and he would have an answer for that right off the top of his head.
That's a decision you want to make. You want to pass the budget as amended, or pass it the way it is? I would personally like to see more money to go back. I mean, you've got, it's written in here 2.5.
Yeah.
I would rather see 4.0.
Well, let's put it this way. You've got to walk before you run sometimes. We're finally catching up with the situation which I reported when I took a lot of time at one meeting and telling you how we got to the point of the excess money. You remember that?
Well, there's a lot.
And we finally get to the point of being able to accomplish some of the things we weren't able to accomplish when we had to pay the city of Easton $163,000. And when they dropped this, It was estimated over 200,000, and they didn't want us anyway because he's, quote, Mayor Panto said that he has to take care of his own community before somewhere else. And we're finally getting to the point in the budget that you have an opportunity to do some good things, and if you jump too far, you might wish you had the extra couple mils to do something else during the year. Things come up, and for example, how much would it, if we don't get a grant, and I think this building should have a generator, and how much could that cost? Wilsonburg has one put in up there, it services the whole facility. It won't be as big as that one, but it'll be something that has to be done. So they're the kind of things, yeah, I'd like to give back 4, and I think 2.5 is a hell of a nice gesture to start, based on how we brought that down and relocated it in different line items. We had to do it that way to get rid of the police line item. When we got rid of the police line item, we had to reallocate $163,000, which during the election, everybody was saying how much money we had. And I had to explain after the election was over, and I think it'll be verified by Cecil B. LaMille back there, and that's a compliment, by the way, our in-house blogger, that I did cover that and how we had to get out of it. And once we opened the budget, by law, that's how we had to do it. You guys can do whatever you want, but Dan, sometimes you have to be a little frugal and think about the future. And, you know, there's a lot of other things that could be done in this borough, and I think you should brainstorm before you go out and throw another $44,000 back.
Well, I'm basing my theory on the carryover money that we're carrying over and the fact that we raised the taxes 2.2 mils 2 years ago. So the 2.2 is a given. Because the way I understand the borough code, if you raise taxes for a specific reason and you don't do it, that money goes back to the taxpayers.
That money was raised for a good reason.
Yeah, it was a good reason, but it wasn't used for that reason.
That's right.
And that's when it goes back. So the 2.2 is a given.
When the, I understand that, but when we got canceled by Easton, that was the reason the increase was made, and we were canceled after the fact. It was till April that we were out looking for either our own, which we couldn't afford, Wilson Borough, which they didn't want us, and then we had to take the state police, and that's working out very well when it comes to calls. And when they get called, if it's a serious situation, they're here. And they're no nonsense. I think that, Dan, you'll probably be the leader of the pack, from what I know about how things go. So, unless there's some other under thing that I don't know is going on with the rest of your group. But my ear's always to the road, and I pretty much get a lot of information indirectly. And I think that you should take it under advisement to take a look at it after the first year. You want to go ahead and do that? That's great.
Well,
it's good for my pocket. I'm a resident too, so.
I only have one vote. I mean, I would like to see it, but if somebody makes a motion to pass the budget the way it is, so be it.
Well, I think, you know, I'm really arguing this point because I think that you really have to look at the future and what your goals are with the new council. And if you have some goals that you want to do some really good things for the borough, no matter what it could be costly, or it could be an emergency that you don't expect. So come another year, you can, I don't expect to see any large jumps to the budget in the coming years. You could look at it again next year, and you're going to make people happy 2 years in a row instead of 1. Because, you know, it's like getting a $10 bill, and you're rich when you get that $10 bill as a kid. And all of a sudden you spend that $10 bill, and all of a sudden you're poor again. And that's how this budget works. I mean, I've been around too many budgets over the years. Let's say
Well, when you have carryover money, like we have, and we never had it, and you want to start spending it all over the place, that's bad too.
Yeah, but it's always nice to have something to look back to, like the mayor's saying, you never know what problems you're gonna foresee. If you don't have the money, you're up the creek.
We had a sewer problem.
I agree with the mayor.
We had a
I
sewer
mean,
problem 4 years in a row. We
I'll-
didn't have
I'll-
to take out a loan or a bond or anything. We could pay for it and get it done efficiently in a time-effective way, and it didn't disturb any of the residents. And it didn't upset the budget.
See, there was 3 times when I was president, we had to borrow money to start the year off.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And, you know, and there was also times when I was the president of council that the motion was made, pay the bills when funds are available. So, you know what? My history tells me that you're better off doing a nice thing at 2.5 mils and looking at the future and seeing if you're gonna shoot yourself in the foot.
I'll make a motion to pass the budget as we advertised with Mr. DePaul's $5,000 amendment to the highway. There's the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Like you said in January, I got a team in here.
New council can change your name there.
Yeah, you're exactly right, you can do anything you want with the new council. It's no big deal, I mean, it's happened before.
All right, some more new business, FYI stuff. This year coming up, 2016, the Holy Ghost Church will be having a centennial celebration in June. Wanted the borough to know. They won't be closing any streets. They will all be held on their own property. But they just wanted everyone to know they'll be having a picnic on June 26th. I don't know if anybody's going to remember that, but
I'm gonna be having a good time there.
The lookies and pierogies and
they always have good food and they're very nice people. Mark your calendars.
Father, he visited me, requested, and I said, it's a no-brainer. But what they're doing now, the Ukrainians that have come into the country, the younger people, he's trying to get them into the church and build the number of people in the church up there. He's a very dynamic young fellow, and he's doing a heck of a job trying to increase the population of the church. And I really like the guy, and I think he'll do a good job in building the roles in the church.
He even cuts his own grass. He said, oh, I could do this. I don't need a lawn service. He's out there cutting his own grass during the summertime. He's a very nice man.
Okay, new business. I got 2 questions I'm going to ask. In the audience is Fred Hosky. Hosky? I'll take the podium there, Mr.
Okay.
All right, for a long while since we lost Easton and the state police did not do none of our ordinances. We, and Perry met with him before, with Fred. We had to hire a citation, non-traffic citation. Let me see, I'm messing this up a little.
Code enforcement law.
Traffic violation officer.
Non-traffic violation officer.
We had a lot of complaints over this summer, over this past year, over last year. There's weeds here, nobody enforces it. There's dog poop in my yard, there's this, there's that. My neighbor did that. There's cars that, need to be towed. They can't be towed unless a representative of the borough is there.
Street, parking,
So anyway,
or.
all the complaints
Enforce the
of the
ordinance.
ordinances that haven't been enforced because the state police don't enforce them.
So that means when we have snow emergency routes, you can get them off the road. Eastern Auto Body will not pick them up unless there's somebody there to tag them.
And we ran into that last year, and last year was a busy year, and we had, the state police would not enforce that. Any ordinance that we have, they would not be enforced.
So what's the question?
I have no idea.
Publicly.
We need to hire them.
We need to ask.
I'm at the podium.
So,
Well,
he is
was
someone
this
who,
advertised?
he is someone who showed interest in the position, so Tommy invited him to the meeting.
Where did you see the advertisement? How was he aware of it?
If council wants to ask him questions,
He was the original, he was one of the original officers, police that came down here when we were interviewing.
they already did the background check and everything on him.
When we were looking to do our own force. But
He knows how to go to the magistrate and file against the violators. You don't have to train them, you don't have to teach somebody. You don't have to rely on the solicitor to do it.
I know we advertised for a secretary.
This is information.
Information?
Yeah.
Well, see, what I'd like to see is, the council in the past, not too long ago, wanted to hire a part-time borough manager who also can enforce the ordinances. And if that's a position that you would be interested in, I would put in an application so the new council maybe next year can look at it, but it doesn't make any sense to have a borough manager or somebody to do ordinances when a
Borough
borough
manager
manager.
doesn't
I'm
have
not finished.
time.
When a borough manager
Doesn't
can
have
do
time to go
both.
out and enforce ordinances.
If your expectations of having, he can send letters to the borough manager, but you need somebody to enforce them. Your expectations of him walking up to a situation that's usually volatile and without that kind of experience that he has as a lawman, I would think that you're putting your borough manager in jeopardy to do something like that.
Who enforced the ordinance when we won't commandments there? Who enforced the
The
ordinance
police.
when the Razzaks?
The police.
Please,
The police did. Yes, they did. We had police force, for all those guys, and anytime we had ordinances that were pushed back, let's say a letter was sent out, I know this because with the police, I was highly involved.
Well, before, I understand that, Jerry, but before it went that far, the borough manager, like Mr. Grant.
His right is
he-
from the desk to the mailbox, okay? Yeah, he can go out there if he feels like he wants to put himself in that situation. But this came up in some conversations, I don't know, I wasn't involved in the conversation, but when I heard about it, I thought, you know what, if we get a borough secretary and not a borough manager, and this is possible because I had unbeknownst to anybody on this council, I had asked the staff in the office for the numbers of people coming in this office on a daily basis. And this is important. It averaged per day 5 or 6 at best, some days none.
Well, wait a minute.
Wow, so the one day I was down there and seen Dave was 5 people when nobody showed up that day, just in 10 minutes.
You're talking between the hours of 9 and 2. How many people drop stuff in the mailbox?
Well,
Hundreds. How many
we're
people
getting
put
off-
sword bill? The sword bill,
there's never
the sword bill
hundreds.
slot was so full you probably couldn't get any more in
We're getting
there.
off track a little bit. Let's what do you want, my question is, what do you guys want to do? I'm only trying to get this off dead center.
Well, since we have him at the podium,
Yes, Councilman.
Let's hear from you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, I'm kind of chomping at the bit here because I think I can answer a lot of the questions that are being raised
Exactly.
here and maybe give you some insight and impression one way or the other. My name is Fred Lahosky, and I'm here tonight because I reached out to the borough of West Easton several months back, and even prior to that I had reached out to West Easton at the behest of some people in the judicial system when the borough was first looking at options when the police department was, or the police service, its own entity, was lost here. There were a lot of conversations about things that could and couldn't be done, paths to take, and then it went silent. And I recently came back and reached out to some of the borough officials about quality of life issues and offered my services, my input, or anything that I could do to help West Easton. So I think that answers the one question, how this came about. I actually reached out to the borough of West Easton. That's how this current ball started rolling. And the reason that I did that is I've been in law enforcement 20 years. I worked for a variety of police departments, first-class townships, to boroughs, to regional. I was one of the original members of the Colonial Regional Police Department. I did the bulk of my career in Bethlehem Township, and most recently have been at Nazareth. I currently work for Wilson Borough, and I have been in Tattney, which is just a smidgen smaller than West Easton. I was also the chief of police at 44th Borough, which is in Luzerne County, and at the same time was the interim borough manager at that municipality. And they were going through some traumatic political and internal changes, which led itself to that. In those capacities, I had the opportunity to work with Borough Code. I had the opportunity to facilitate some draft ordinances dealing with some quality of life issues. In particular, up in 44, they had a big feral cat problem at one point, and I did some research and we put an ordinance together. In my time at Bethlehem Township, we had a lot of problems with noise ordinance in particular. That's when the mufflers, the lowrider muffler kind of thing first came out, and that was a big problem in Bethlehem Township. And we did some researching into different titles. It was actually under Title 67. The Pennsylvania codes come in different titles for different things. The vehicle code is actually Title 75. Drugs are actually Title 35. Title 67 was noise and witness standards and whatnot. So I did some of those. In my capacity as a police officer, I worked from the bottom as a patrolman, and I worked at the management at the top, and I did everything in between. And in that capacity, I facilitated, while I was at 44, probably about $20,000 in police grants for a variety of things, including vehicles, weapons, breathalyzers for 44 and the neighboring municipality of Wyoming Borough. We did a lot of consortium things, and I have a lot of experience in that. And I also, in my time at Nazareth, I worked initially as a detective, and I did a lot of administrative function in creating their current policy and procedures manual. It's a 700-page document. It's based on an accreditation standard, even though they're not an accredited agency. We took those things and we funneled it into what Nazareth was as a community to make it work. And it is a document now that's 6 going on 7 years old, and it is still relatively intact from its original piece. And I'll pat myself on the back. That took me 6 months to make that. They spent a year revising it, and they've made almost no changes to date. So I thought that as a public servant that I could offer something for West Easton should they choose to employ that. I was never an officer that sat back. I always prided myself on being proactive. I'm very versed in the court system, and I'm generally fairly successful because I think about the court process and a trial and the worst case scenario the day I take a complaint. So when I take a complaint or I handle an incident, I think about the final day, how this has to present. And I think West Easton has a clean slate as far as what we're talking about currently is the quality of life ordinance enforcement. Not the cops and robbers, things like the general courtesies that make a community. You know, years ago, and I'm Slovak, so I don't, I'm kind of out of line here with Ukrainians. I know that there's a lot of that going on, but we're pretty close in a lot of that ethnic heritage. And as a young person growing up, everything got worked out over the fence. You know, you had police, but you never saw them because by the time you got home, they called your parents and that was the end of it. Those kind of courtesies have dissipated a little bit. It's not necessarily that we need to come down with an iron fist, but a lot of times people need a reminder and they need some coaxing. And West Easton has an opportunity to start some code enforcement, some ordinance enforcement, and some quality of life things with an empty slate, and looking at the administrative end of that and applying it and guiding it with an operational end. They can come up with a viable and custom program that I think could do some good things for West Easton based on its uniqueness. And I would appreciate the opportunity to be a part of that, and I'm more than willing to assist in any way that I can. And if you folks aren't interested in me, well, I wish you the best. But I think it's a nice community, and I think it has a lot to offer. And,
I have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
I'll be right up front. Everybody reads the paper.
yes, sir.
Okay? I mean, the Express, Whitehall. Do you work full-time or part-time for the borough? I mean, Wilson Borough.
I work part-time, sir.
And do they give you a schedule?
No, you submit an availability sheet a month and a half to 2 months in advance, and you'll get assignments from there.
Would you be interested in a part-time manager's job?
If I'm the person that you're willing to give an opportunity, I'd serve at your will.
Well, see, what I'm getting at is, because you work part-time, and there be a problem, and you're at work in another community, and you're in a police uniform,
I think you're going to answer your own question.
how's that going to work? Yeah, but you're in a police uniform for Wilson Borough, and you're coming down here on Wilson Borough time, or you have to change, or you have to put it off. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, in that scenario, there would be some very definitive lines. I would not be able to do West Easton work on Wilson time. That's actually fraud, but
Yeah, that's a big problem.
that would be cheating. That would be cheating Wilson Borough. And I would not come to West Easton, or you would not want another entity coming in a uniform to your municipality, because there would be a misrepresentation of the capacity that they're operating in.
Well, that's the point I wanted to make. I wanted to, you admit that you work for the borough, you're in uniform. There's no way that you can come down here. No way at all. I don't know if someone else has questions, but it's something to think about.
Yes.
I'll step back. I have a question for the council. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we were only like a couple $1,000s off from having Wilson Borough as our police protection on the last contract. Wouldn't it be worth it to pay Wilson a couple $1,000s and get them as a service, and they could do they could do both?
Yeah,
they could enforce all the local ordinances plus the...
I'll answer that because I was highly involved in Wilson Borough. Yes, that was my first choice after we eliminated the fact, and this guy was on the top of our list if we were going to go with full-time police, okay, of our own. We couldn't afford it. There was too much to startup cost and everything like that, and we couldn't get there. I went to Mayor Russo and met with Perkansky, and they were ready to go with it. They took it to council, and their council, there's a couple people on the council that haven't forgot the fact that we took Easton over them many years ago. And they voted against it. It wasn't a couple of $1,000. We would have paid, at that point when we had money available, we would have paid what the price would have been, okay? Because we wanted full-time protection like we had. And Mayor Crusoe was very upset about it. And Perkansky knew it was a natural situation for him. the drive-through, the connection, the streets, everything. And the mayor called me up and he says, I won't tell you exactly what he called the council, but he was very unhappy. He was very unhappy because it was monies that Wilson Borough could have used. And based on the hours that they spent when I look back compared to what Easton's hours were, it was different. It was lower hours because of the convenience of where they were at. And they still drive through West Easton right now to get to one of their locations in Wilson Borough. I saw it 2 weeks in a row. Now I've seen Wilson down here. But that's the problem we have.
That's another situation, Gary, because I went up to the borough to speak to Mr. Courier on something totally nothing to do with West Easton or Wilson. And Mayor Crusoe was there. And it was an encouraging conversation. And I think we should follow all kind of leads before we step into it.
Oh, absolutely.
And if it went that way, we'd be down here in Beauport.
Yeah, I talked to him 2-3 weeks ago, and I said, has anything changed? And he said, one thing has changed. We've lost one of the naysayers, I guess, that maybe. But then, and we're going to go back to where you're at with giving $4 million rebate or a reduction in taxes, because you're talking, even if we go, if Wilson Borough would get to 163,000, you know how many mills of taxes that is? About 8 mills. It's 8 mills of taxes. So, yeah, we were there, and we had the monies, and we held on to that money for a good period of time, hoping that Wilson Borough would change their mind, and they did. And I met with the mayor and Perkansky 3 separate times, and just recently I saw the mayor and talked to him a little bit, and that was my question: have the atmosphere changed? But he says we still have Jim McGowan, and he hasn't forgotten.
Well, it's a good
Yeah.
lead to follow, because
Yeah,
people can
absolutely.
change their minds, people can.
Well, if money is the talking subject, it's going to change a lot of people's mind. If they need money, at that point, I don't think they really cared what the price would have been. And also, we had some negativity come out of West Easton with a letter to Wilson Borough, not for one of our residents, and a letter to Wilson Borough for not to accept West Easton as a police force.
Yeah, I think
And that fell right in line. That fell right in line with their feelings at that point in time. It just encouraged the ones that didn't want us even more.
Yeah, we should check with all on this.
I have a question for council. Why should we let you hire him? You got 17 days left. The new council should be looking at hire.
This is just informational, information.
No.
This is informational.
No, Hank, this is informational. I'm glad you came, because
Yeah.
I found,
I thought they were going to.
he works for Wilson part-time, he's in uniform, and there might be some conflict there.
Yeah, it's informational.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, I have to make this part clear. I wouldn't even attempt to come down here in a Wilson uniform.
Oh, no, I know.
Out of respect for my employment at Wilson Borough, that's inappropriate, so
Just had nothing to do with anything, Hank. We're just talking about it.
You're
Information.
scaring me, Jerry.
Information.
Or you scared me a little bit.
I have a question.
You're scaring me.
Officer Lahovsky,
Yes, sir.
you're aware that what's in the budget is $15,000 for the job you're seeking?
I've read that on your blog, actually.
Well, that came from the council.
I found out about it too.
Okay. When you're working for Wilson Borough as an officer,
Yes, sir.
are you on rotating shifts or you have a steady shift?
No, I'm a part-time officer, so I'll know my schedule, like right now, I know my schedule up until February. Now, if I have a commitment, like I also do casework for Lehigh County. I've been a caseworker in the mental health system for almost 30 years, and typically I do every other Sunday overnight. So when I put my availability in at Wilson, I know I'm not available every other Sunday. So if I have a commitment somewhere or I've got a wedding to go to, when I put my availability in at Wilson, I know I can't work those days. The chief at Wilson will make the schedule, and they do this for every officer who's part-time. They will make the schedule based on that officer's availability, because most part-time officers have other jobs.
Well, how many hours would you expect to work a week here at 15,000?
Well, wait a minute.
I guess
Hold
that
on,
would
wait-
depend
wait-
on council.
Wait a minute, Matt. I think 15,000 was in the budget for that position.
Right.
I don't think it was a salary.
Oh, okay. I'm not even going to go there. I don't know. All I know is the number 15,000, whether it's salary or. Let's get back to your work schedule. So, if the council gave you set hours that we need you down here, you would submit those to Wilson Borough and let your chief know that you're unavailable for those hours.
Yes.
Okay.
But your Wilson schedule's made up, like you said, way in advance.
Yes.
So it would be impossible for us to ask you to come down on a day that you look at your schedule and you say, oh, I'm working 2/22.
Well, the thing is, Dan, you don't even know what day the person, whoever gets hired, is gonna be called down, because it could be a snow emergency. He could be working because there's snow at that time in Wilson. We don't know that. And we're gonna need him that day to get them cars moved. We don't know that he'll be available.
That's right, that's what I'm saying,
Well,
that's why I'm asking questions.
And these are not guarantees. Officers have issues where they need a day off for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You call another officer and say, hey, can you switch a shift with me? Hey, can you work my shift with me? Generally, you can get that done. There are times where you cannot. It's rare. I mean, they have a large staple of part-time office.
Freddie,
Yes, ma'am.
give your contact information to Mr. DeCall,
Yes, ma'am.
and you can talk more about it. And-
I'm glad you came and gave us all the information. I mean,
This is not, I'm a transparent person, because you can read everything in the paper, but I hide nothing, and I'm easy to find. I'm glad we give you my contact information.
Well, I think between the people here on this council, the best wish would be that we contract with someone, and if we are fortunate enough to contract with Wilson, you could be part of what we're talking about anyway.
Well, and I would step back at that point, because my position at Wilson is not to negotiate contract.
Right.
I receive dictation there. So I serve at the whim of Chief Barkansky, and I certainly don't want to be on his bad side. So.
Okay, we're gonna move on now.
Oh,
You can do it.
We're gonna let me share this part.
oh, okay.
As of tomorrow, will be Molly's last day, we received a resignation. And also,
Am I off policy?
yeah,
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Molly's the clerk.
and also, Key Codes Inspection Agency will not be serving the borough anymore in 2016. They will finish all started projects, but they're not going to start any new ones. With that said, give Tommy a quote I had received, who was also highly recommended and that I met with several occasions. It also offers code services, and the proposal and the experience, the companies, the different areas they worked, what they offered is all in there for the new council to decide what they want to do. I need a motion to accept these resignations.
I make the motion.
Was that the code company that was, Fred was talking to me? He was talking to me and I didn't hear everything he said. Was that the code company?
No, this is the building code.
Building code, okay.
I make the motion, we accept your resignation, Molly's.
A
Me
motion-
too, with a letter to thank her for the time that she was here, and, you know, I'm sure you're going to call you about it, but you know, I really appreciate her service.
Yeah. A motion by, we're taking over the lunch. A motion by Mr. Notley and second by Mr. Moore to accept the resignation and the departure of Molly and Kiko's. You know about this proposal?
Right.
When I got a bunch of proposals, Kiko's and this group were very close and close together as far as like being able to deal with our people kinder, gentler, not so much like attack dogs, and that's why I hung on to that in case something did happen. But who you contact is up to you.
You had a second, right, on the motion?
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, in your package, you had a resolution. I'll read it to everyone. Recognizing, thanking, and honoring Gerald W. Gross for his 50 years of service to the borough of West Easton. Whereas Gerald W. Gross, in his 50th year of public service to the residents of the borough of West Easton, and whereas Gerald W. Gross served for 20 years as a distinguished member of the West Easton Borough Council and spent much of that time as council president. And whereas Gerald W. Gross has served for 30 years as a dedicated mayor to the borough of West Easton. And whereas Gerald W. Gross was instrumental during his 50 years in elected office in bringing about many noteworthy milestones, including, but not limited to, the installation of a public sewer system in our borough, the construction and dedication of a new municipal building at 237 7th Street in the borough, and the establishment of the Northampton County Treatment Center in the borough, the oversight and public safety in the borough through the cooperation of the Wilson and Easton Police Department, and more recently the smooth transition to the Pennsylvania State Police. The leadership of the West Easton Centennial Celebration in 1989, a strong advocacy in his adult life of recreation for youth, and many years donating his time to successful coaching of local youth sports teams, and many more accomplishments too numerous to list here. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Borough of West Easton, on behalf of its grateful residents, hereby thank Gerald W. Gross for his countless hours of service to the public during his 50 years of elected office. And it be further resolved that the Council of the Borough of West Easton hereby honors Gerald W. Gross for his exemplary leadership and lasting legacy by designating the public park on Keystone Avenue as the Gerald W. Gross Park. And be further resolved that an appropriate sign bearing the inscription Gerald W. Gross Park shall be erected at the park on Keystone Avenue, and a dedication ceremony shall be conducted when the sign is unveiled later in the year at a time and date to be determined. In witness thereof, this resolution was adopted by the Council of West Easton on November 14, 2015, with its members voting as follows. Do I have a motion to accept this resolution?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Nyland, second by Mr. Nixon. The voting members as follows. Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Nixon.
Yes.
Mr. DePaul.
Yes.
Mr. James not present. Mr. Nolly.
Yes.
Mr. Nico not present. It's not a conflict if I vote for my dad, is it? Yes, it's already 4 to 1, so. Gerald Gross, W. Clark.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that. Never
Yeah,
said-
your start there.
I have to plant a tree over there.
Back in the day, before it was like a real park, before the basketball court, actually that he orchestrated when one of the contractors was
Put the street.
putting the streets in, he said, hey, this is where I got it from. How about putting in a basketball court for us? And then that's when that came about.
Joseph Sakone was putting in East Street. And Dave DeWaldo was one of the most fantastic councilmen we ever had in this borough. He was terrific. Assistant superintendent of schools in Easton. And him and I put our heads together and says, why don't we get a combination ice skating rink and basketball court? And we went to Sakone, and he says, how big do you want? He said, I always got excess macadam. Lo and behold, we got the court put in. The ice skating thing it melted too fast most of the time. We really had to have cold winters. And we had it successful maybe 2 years when it was really cold. And then somehow the lights appeared on it. I won't tell you how they got there, but they didn't cost very anything. And we were fortunate to have that facility put in there, and I wish Dave was still here to see everything, because he was a great person that really cared about this borough. He died young. But that's how it happened. And a lot of the trees around the signs and stuff like that, I planted them. Had my guys come up and plant them. If I had excess materials, I had them come up and plant them. A lot of the trees that are over there right now, I put in. But it was because I loved the fact that recreation park, it used to be all cinders when I was growing up, and we used to have to take the balls after every day we played over there. Hank Notley played football for me. And he wore out his football pants all the time with all the cinders we had, and we had to keep getting them repaired. And I had a lot of good kids that I remember, and now they're not kids anymore. There's Hank sitting back there, and how many years young?
I was 7 years old when I played for you.
Yeah.
Had to be 9.
What was that back then, Jerry? Were you owning instead of
It was the West Easton Bears.
West Easton?
Yeah. And Jim Frank and I coached them for a couple of years when we were going to school. And
You were a basketball coach.
yeah, I was a basketball coach too.
Yeah.
So we're reminiscing a little bit, but it's really, for me, it's an emotional thing here, and I appreciate everything that's been done. Thank you.
Officer,
What?
I see the various array of pictures up there. Is 2007 the most recent? We're gonna have a big.
We just had a picture taken tonight.
Okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know. I wanted to know since we're having a big change up in council, Mayor Gross,
Yeah,
it's gonna be filled.
after every election, prior to the next
Every
one,
two,
Thank you,
every 2 years.
every 2 years we try to take a picture. There's some in storage somewhere we have to find, but that's part of the problem we have here too. We don't have enough room.
Okay, one more on new business. Mr. Dees, you want to change this that you have on your law? Come on. Tell residents they can do it, have electrical inspection.
I said, if you look at the end of this, there's disclaimers. You just want me to mention for the borough?
You have to come down, and the inspector has to come down and inspect it. You will have no mention about taking it with the municipality to make sure you meet the inspection.
I will add that in. But I don't, okay.
Because here's what happened.
Well, I'll talk to you about it later. But
Here, we'll talk
that's
now.
not, that's,
But here's the thing, you put it on there,
Why
Guys.
don't you explain the whole thing to everyone who's seen this, so
Okay.
they know what you're talking about?
What we have here is for the home generators, put in backup service, when your power goes out.
It's a transfer switch.
Right. So what it comes down to, but you do not tell homeowners to go, well, you can hook it up yourself. You should be a certified electrician. Somebody's seeing this, the wife says, oh, honey, you can do this. In that case, it's very easy, half an hour, and you'll have it in an hour. Okay, you have people start messing around with electric, next thing you know, somebody gets electrocuted or somebody burns their house down. And like I said, when I didn't see no mention to check with your...
Well, okay, as far as that goes, Tom, read the end of that article where there's disclaimers. It says only do electrical that you feel comfortable with.
So you didn't get an inspection either, and you're gonna be a role model in your city.
Let me check on that, because I may...
Get the code to come, sometimes it's hard. Even if you work there, it takes 3-4 weeks. They don't, they don't show up anyhow, so.
But the whole thing of it is, we want them to think, we don't want somebody burning their house down, and that's the whole thing.
Well, it's mentioned in there about the disclaimers about the electrical power still in the box, and
Yeah.
do what you're comfortable with and what you can do. As far as the electrical inspection, I will talk to you later about that, because I don't know if that transfer panel requires an electrical inspection. The service box does, but that's a transfer
They're tying
switch
into
for a
that
generator.
service box.
Well, I'll talk to you later about it.
Okay, do we have anything else?
What's that?
Motion to adjourn?
I make the motion, we adjourn.